And off the top at 6, Pope Francis on the move. He landed in Santiago de Cuba about an hour ago. That after spending most of the day in the city of Holguín, where he celebrated Mass for the second time in the island nation. Now CBS 4 live team coverage of the Pope's last full day in Cuba. While in Santiago de Cuba, Pope Francis will visit a shrine to the country's patron saint. CBS 4 News anchor Rick Folbaum is live for us in Havana, where the Pope began the day. Rick.
Well, Elliot, as Pope Francis wraps up his last full day on this trip to Cuba, it seems that this trip is serving as yet another possibility of what could be here on this island. What could be if this island is able to eventually open itself up to the rest of the world. And there's no question who Pope Francis believes is responsible for Cuba's future. The vibrant young community here on the island. He spoke to them yesterday, and we've been talking to them as well. And even with all they have to deal with, the dead-end economy, the lack of freedoms, we are finding time and again that this younger community, this younger generation of Cubans are hopeful and ready to lead.
Dream.
The Pope's message to Cuba's youth: don't be afraid to dream. Even if your dreams seem big, he told them, that's okay. And for the island's millennials, it's finally beginning to feel like dreaming for a better future is not so far-fetched. Yes, the Castros maintain their firm grip on power, but for 34-year-old waiter German, it's his generation that must step up.
I think we are the main because we are the young people now, and we are the ones who will be in position to make change depending on our will. So change also is up to us.
Ariana's a 32-year-old accountant with a brother who works at Bank of America in Miami. I ask her if she'd like more personal freedoms. It's not an easy question for her to answer. She says she's not political and doesn't much care for talk of politics, but she says she's hopeful for a better future now that relations with the U.S. are improving. Just as the Castros are aging, so is the generation that saw their rise up. For Pedro, who's 78, change is a little scary, especially when he says the current system works just fine.
I like Fidel and what he has done. I have helped as possible. I was in my hand to help, because I think that people have a life and should help the other ones.
But for Cuba's youth, not afraid to speak openly, something's gotta give.
True is true, and it needs to be known and everywhere. It's not working out, and it's never been working out very well. So we hope that with those changes coming closer and closer each day, that will change.
Michelle is 31.
En baseball, New York Yankee. En basketball,
Miami Heat.
Chicago Bulls.
Oh, Chicago Bulls. He attended the papal mass and the Pope's remarks to young people.
Every morning I wake up to pray to God. I ask to my Lord, to my God, and it's necessary to change this country, but we need to breathe a new freedom. It's very important for me.
Very important to Michelle and to so many young people that we've spoken to during our recent visits here to Cuba. Fidel is 89, Raul is 83. Elliot, they can't live forever. And when they're gone, there is a new generation of Cubans who are ready to step up and have their chance. Back to you.
Rick, it's so obvious, especially from your interviews with the young people and then that other gentleman that you interviewed who said that he supports Fidel Castro. There is a generational divide on that island. Did anybody talk to you about what role the Pope's trip will play in that divide?
Not specifically about that, Elliot. I mean, everybody talked about the hope, that the message of hope that the Pope brought here. But I think it's an interesting observation that you made, that there is a generational divide here in Cuba, just as there is in South Florida. Because as we know from recent polls, it's older generations of Cuban exiles in South Florida who hold on to the past and who are still unable to move beyond that for very good reasons, we must say. But it's the younger generations of Cuban exiles in South Florida and here in Cuba who are ready to overlook what has happened in the past, not forget it, but to find a way to move forward so that our two countries can come together and so that Cuba can become a real full member of the international community again.
And it's so interesting how in so many cases people want the same thing, just different ways of going about it. Rick Folbaum, thank you so much for that live report from Havana tonight.